Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel says he had nothing to lose by staying out to try getting to the end of the race on an old set of soft tyres. I'm Thomas Marr, be sure to like and subscribe for the very latest Formula 1 news. Vettel came home 7th in Sunday's Spanish Grand Prix after a strategic roll of the dice after an apparent breakdown in communication between Ferrari and Vettel. Sebastian started the race on the medium compound tyre, having lined up in P11. Charles Leclerc started on softs from 9th, and the two Ferraris had a solid but unspectacular start to the race. On lap 29, Ferrari opted to bring both of their drivers in at the same time, electing not to leave Vettel out for a bit longer on his mediums. Instead, Ferrari put themselves under a bit of unnecessary pressure by double stacking their drivers on the same lap. Charles swapped from soft to medium, and following in just 8 seconds behind, Vettel swapped from his mediums to a used set of soft tyres. After the stop, Vettel was able to close up on Leclerc, with the gap shrinking from 8 seconds down to 4 before Charles spun out of the race with an electrical issue, switching his engine off on lap 36. At this stage of the race, not far past half distance, the assumption was that Vettel would pit again. After all, the furthest anyone had gone on the softs over the weekend was 24 laps during Friday practice, and that was with new softs, not used like what Sebastian was on. Vettel certainly assumed he was coming in again, asking over the radio what lap times his engineer wanted. On lap 48, with 18 laps still to go, he was told to push hard for 3 laps. At this point in the race, rain was a slight threat, but having done 19 laps on the softs, surely it was time to switch back to the mediums like the majority were doing. Instead, Vettel's radio suddenly crackled into life, and he was asked,
"What do you think about going to the end with these tyres?"
For fuck's sake, I asked you this before. Now I've been pushing for 3 laps.
Understand? We are just checking.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, it depends. How many laps to go?
16 laps, and we think to be 5 laps short.
What's the price of the other people that stopped?
22.6.
Okay, here's the task for you. You need to fix them to the end, and then what do I have to do to stay ahead?
Me 23.4, 23.5 till the end.
I can do that. Well, let's try, we've got nothing to lose.
We are P5, that's what I was asking for.
With his tyres pushing on 40 laps old by the checkered flag, Vettel's pace fell away to into the 124s, with the chasing drivers all in the 23s. He would have come under serious pressure on the final lap, but luckily, Vettel had been lapped by Lewis Hamilton and so didn't need to do lap 66. This meant that Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo all couldn't get a proper crack at passing the struggling Ferrari. Vettel did 29 laps on the mediums, followed by 36 laps on used softs. It's a pretty bizarre decision from Ferrari, especially when you throw in the fact they double stacked their drivers only to send them both back out into traffic. A cynic would say they didn't want Vettel continuing to push on ahead on what would have been 10 seconds of clear air in front of him and make use of the longer life of the mediums. Out of seemingly nowhere, Ferrari's poor strategic choices worked out as Vettel managed to massage his tyres home. It was a great drive from him, winning him the Driver of the Day accolade, and it's made even more impressive by the fact that Sebastian didn't even know he was expected to drive the distance of the race on those softs until he'd already driven 20 laps on them. "It's quite simple, we didn't have anything to lose," Vettel said afterwards of the decision to swap to a one-stop strategy. "We were 11th, and I think we were trying to offset until the end of the race, so obviously we were catching the cars in front. They pitted for their second stop, but I was not in a rush to catch them and managing the tyres. Then I was told to push, which I did, and I was told to make it to the end, or asked if I could make it to the end." Explaining to Sky Sports F1, he said, "I said, well, you could have asked me that 3 laps before because I asked a couple of times, what's the target? How long do we want to go? So I could look after my tyres. I said we'd try to make it. The last 5 laps were really difficult. Obviously it helped that we got lapped, to be honest. Not always the case, but today it was." Vettel explained the one stop had not been planned originally, and the team appeared to stumble into it. "We obviously took that risk because we had nothing to lose, and it did pay off, but it wasn't the plan before the race to do close to 40 laps on the soft tyre." Vettel still wasn't particularly happy afterwards. When asked by Sky Italia what Ferrari need to learn from a race like this, he said, "My opinion is not important anymore." He also said he hasn't quite turned the corner in figuring out his current pace and performance issues. Given a new chassis for the weekend, Vettel appeared happier with the handling, but this didn't translate into much more competitiveness. "Mixed, to be honest. Still up and down," Vettel said. "Some sessions feel better than others. The first stint was quite poor. The second stint, I felt much more in control of the car. Still, I think some work to do on my side." That's it from me for the moment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter @ThomasMarr on F1.